Makes sense. One of my next question was, how do you know that a company's investor ready? And you kind of answered it, that there's a, yeah, they're investing in lines. Like I had worked on private equity as well. So to your point earlier, they go out, they go get some capital, create a $100 million, $1 billion fund, and then go buy 10 things at 10 million or 10 things at 100 million. So they're looking, they too have to answer to somebody, right? They got to make their spread in terms of the value that they create, and then they got to return those investments back to someone else when there's an exit 5, 6, 7, 8 years down the road. Question for you as it relates to like angels and so so you got to have product market fit. That's clearly the first one, and you got to show a trajectory that's on a 45-degree angle or more, but or more is kind of hard to do. A 45 is probably a better goal. Is there a difference between how angels invest versus traditional VCs and PEs? And can you touch on the
Yeah,
differences
it's a
about?
good question. So to specifically call out angels first, like angels are really focused on something they want to see in the world that doesn't exist yet. And so they're investing in you as a founder. And yes, they want to see that you're super talented in it, but the mission and the idea really has to resonate with them in order for this to be a powerful and investable business, because they're coming in when might not be any revenue, and it's unclear if there will
Mhm.
be product market fit, and maybe there's just like an early like simple version of a product and not much else. So
Yep.
that's the thing with angel, whereas VCs are in the business of seeing things that are at the right stage, and matching a pattern that they've seen before, that looks like it could be successful, and then next, they would want to see, okay, X and Y steps would be taken to de-risk the business further
Mhm.
so that it's able to capture the market and be wildly successful. So they're thinking in terms of patterns and de-risking, as opposed to vision and just the talent. I mean, yes, VCs care about talent, which is why they know that repeat founders are more successful. They know that people from spinning out of certain companies have learned a thing or two, and they're probably going to be really successful if they're coming out of OpenAI or Stripe or Palantir or Airbnb or Uber or whatever.
Mhm.
But like those are part of the patterns they're looking for with people, as opposed to isolating what makes that individual tick, which might be more of the angel investor's preference.
Instant. Yeah, and I wanted to highlight that difference for the audience because there are different types. One is far more transactional and financial in nature, like the VCs and private
Mhm.
equity offices and whatnot, versus a angel would be much more visionary in their approach. And I think people need to know where they're at. One of the things that I've learned, because I was at an event in Austin, no, San Diego. It was Austin last year, San Diego this year, about the varying differences, the amount of types of VCs out there that are small, medium, large cap. Some won't touch anything less than 10 million EBITDA, but then people will go fish in them. And then also some of them, to your point earlier, the only way you can see patterns is that they have, domain expertise in whatever they're investing in. So when you actually start whittling down in whatever business or concept we have, even if you can give someone, let's say, a 70% return, but they're
Mhm.
investing in something they don't understand, to your point, to them, it's risky because I don't know. Is this good? Should this 60 be 90% growth or maybe 15% is good enough? So there's a huge amount of variability out there. And I think it's important for people to realize where you're at to make sure you're doing the proper outreach, like you kind of talk about. Um, One of the things I want to talk a little bit about is sort of valuations and term sheet. So obviously those things are intimidating for most. And so how do you counsel entrepreneurs to negotiate term to protect their vision, but maybe still having the capital? And are there any techniques or approaches not to dilute yourself too much? Obviously, everybody wants money without giving anything up. It doesn't work that way. But are
Yeah.
there ways to make it more balanced? Because if you can get a professional mercenary VC, they may extract a little more out of you than maybe, you
Yeah.
know,
So this is where understanding term sheets are really important, because there are things that smart founders, and intuitively understand. Okay, for the same amount of money, maybe I want the company with a higher sorry, the proposal with a higher valuation, because there's going to be less dilution. you're going to give me $10 million and someone else is going to give me $10 million, but they're saying that the business is worth $80 million, where maybe you think it's only worth 60. So wow, that's a huge difference in terms of ownership that they would get. But there's all
Yeah.
this stuff that is below the surface. So they might give me a higher valuation, but there might be these terms in the deal where, like, liquidation preferences, where they might be insisting on a very high liquidation preference that they get paid before anybody else. Or they may have provisions where they're insisting that some existing investors, some small investors, maybe angels, have to sell their shares, or they get so they basically get cut out of the cap table. They call this cleaning up the cap table, but
Yeah.
that's because a lot of investors, a lot of small investors, make it hard to get things done and to maybe manage the governance of the business in the future in some way. But generally, it can be very adverse for existing investors. It can be their terms could be very adverse for you as a founder, because they might say they want a board seat or 2 board seats or a board and observer seat, and maybe the other party doesn't. So all money looks like it's green, but it doesn't have the same value. Or at
Very good
least
point.
like
Very
American
good
money
point.
is all green, right? So like and by that, we recognize there are terms and provisions and fine print that comes with any deal, and you have to look very carefully at that. So people want to avoid dilution, but they also want to keep control of their business. They want to own more of the business at exit. So it's not just like how much does right now the investor own, but at exit, how much of the proceeds will they take first? Well, because they get to eat first with their liquidation preference.
Yeah, and there's then the variability. If I would imagine, given my audience, most of them would have seen Dragon Den or Shark Tank. But they have to realize, like you're right, different investors will look at things differently, want a different percentage based on their perceived risk. And so you're right, not all money is the same. And that's the point I wanted to ask that question, is make sure, if you're raising funding, like you really got to get the devil is in the details. And I think you got to think, okay, what if this plays out 5, 10 years, right? Because the chances of you going, I think, and correct me if I'm wrong, you're probably going to go back to the same investor group if you need another round or two before you get to where you want to really get an exit. So you're more likely to secure additional investment from them than you are from others. It doesn't mean it's mutually exclusive, but that's probably where you're going to go first because they're already invested. So you also have to look at, well, if I play this out 5, 7 years out, what did this look like? Do I like this deal? Do I want to? And also, do you like the people, right? It can't
Yeah.
just be money. You're going to be in business with them, like you said. They'll have some oversight, so they may put
They're going to be involved for a while.
covenant.
Yeah,
They're going to be
that's
involved for a
right.
while.